this has been interesting, and if you did not see this, Al Sharpton threw a march, and I say through because the march sounded like a party as much as anything else. But they had a march in D.C., and I couldn't even really tell what the purpose of the damn thing was. But they had a march, and some folks who had been protested in Ferguson decided to show up at the march. And I did find it to be very, very interesting because the things that they seemed to be complaining about were like so DC power structure, right? Like they had a march that had VIP passes. Nah, look, man. Look. All right. Now, if you want to have a situation at your march where some people have access to certain places and other people don't, I'm with that. Like, I feel pretty confident that at the March on Washington in 1963, you wasn't getting real close to the stage without some kind of pass, right? Like, you can't just let anybody get anywhere at your little get together. You just can't, right? But you can't be calling it the VIP. Like, this is not the club. You cannot do that. Like, that, it can't be that. But once you start getting into like the inner workings of the power structure, then that's what you're going to have. So Al's having a march, right? It's in D.C. There's all kinds of people who need to be seen at that march because Al is having a march. Like, I haven't read into this but so much, but I feel pretty confident saying that for a certain class of people who work in a certain part of the DC world, that you needed to be seen at Al's march. There's all kinds of people trying to position themselves to get whatever it is that they trying to do, because this thing was going on in D.C., and if you claim you was going to be down for the cause, you needed to do that. Or you went on a job interview, and the guy that you interviewed with was like, yeah, I'm going to be at Al's march. Are you going to be there? Yeah, I'm thinking about going. Okay, great. Well, I'll get you a pass. You know, like, that was a fascinating part of this, because what I think is lost when people have these discussions about Al Sharpton is that damn near everybody evaluates Al Sharpton in the context of, like, you know, Tawana Brawley, Al Sharpton, Crown Heights, Al Sharpton, whereas the 2014 Al Sharpton is absolutely 100% embedded in the establishment. Like, that's what he is. Now, I say that's interesting because the folks coming from Ferguson are not. That's not an establishment party. That's younger people that's coming from the outside that's doing more rabble-rousing, right? Now, I'm not getting into a judgment, at least not at this particular moment, about which approach is the one to go with, but I do find it ridiculous, this idea that people think that there has to be one approach that you go with. Like, there's room for all here. And you're going to kind of need all. Because of all the noise that you can make on the ground in Ferguson, Al Sharpton can get the President of the United States on the phone. Right? And if there is no value to being able to get the President of the United States on the phone, then what's the point of any of this? You know what I mean? So the idea that Sharpton and Jesse or whatever need to step aside, no. You don't want that. You don't want that. Now, you may not want them to glory hog your party, and that makes perfect sense. I'm with you there. But I would argue, if we're speaking purely in strategic terms, each side in this needs the other. And it is lazy to assume that there's only room for one approach. Now, I do think, though, that there is a credit claiming thing that's going on here. So this is something that the folks in Ferguson, as it relates to Al Sharpton, is this something that they're never going to be able to overcome? which is that the only way that Al Sharpton can claim credit for what they do is to effectively co-opt their movement, and they do not want their movement to be co-opted by Al Sharpton, which is fine, and I totally understand. But I do think generally people need to understand something and not so much particularize this to Sharpton, which is no matter where you are in this world, all right, if you are young, you are not going to get very much help from older people unless those older people can claim credit for your success. So Al Sharpton has young people that work within his movement, and he will push and he will support them because he can claim credit for their success. This is an axiom that holds true at your job, by the way. When you wind up in a situation where there's no one around who can claim credit for your success, then people don't have much of a personal incentive to help you get to the places that you want to go. Like, that's the world, okay? Now, I'm not saying that that is not something that people, basically, if you complain about that, I understand it. But I do think that people need to stop looking at this as though this is somehow particular to Sharpton, and that this is like a further example of what a hustler and a charlatan he is. No, that is an example of what a man he is. That's just how things work. That's just it. Now, on the other end of this, I do think it's worth noting that there are folks on the ground who have been on the ground at Ferguson from the very beginning deserve a whole lot of credit. They do. But they're people too. And they damn sure want that credit. Like, let's not lose sight of that either. And I'm not judging them for that fact. I understand it. I get it. But I think that it is intellectually lazy to speak basically as though Sharpton is the only person that has any measure of self-interest in this. That's just not true. I mean, that's just not how things, that's not it. That's not it. And I'm not saying anybody's a good person or a bad person on either side for that. But if you're going to get on this and start looking at it, picking sides in that way, I do think that there's something there to consider. I have seen this be described as a generational gap, and I don't think that's what this is at all. This isn't a generational gap, man. This is just the way institutions work and operate and how things go.